Remember about 10 years ago when gamers across the internet found themselves in the war of consoles versus PC? I often find myself going back to those old videos whenever I need my dose of internet culture nostalgia for what seems to be simpler times. The flame wars between console and PC people that seemed so ubiquitous on platforms like YouTube 10 years ago seemed to flame out, and the creators who took part in these debates either went on to create content about other things or went offline completely. It was clear at that time that if you wanted faster performance and higher fidelity graphics settings, you would go to PC. Listening back to these old debate videos, it's amazing how cheap the most relevant PC gaming hardware was at the time, especially in comparison to what PC components cost now. There really seemed like there was no real downside to PC, and that if you played on console, you were opting for a definitively compromised gaming experience. Be it the Xbox 360, PS3, Xbox One, or PS4, there really was no clear argument in favor of consoles that would be convincing for a PC gamer. But with the advent of the unprecedented changes in the gaming industry with regards to companies and how they manage hardware and software, the landscape seems to have changed quite a bit. Now, I'm not going to go into this to debate about which platform is better. For me, I've put about an equal amount of time across both platforms in their different eras through decades at this point. I played tons of console in the 6th and 7th generations. I played almost exclusively on the PC in the latter part of the 7th generation and most of the 8th and 9th generations. At the same time, I do have 8th and 9th generation consoles, and I do play consoles both classic and modern. And I kind of want to describe what the experience of platform agnosticism is like, its benefits and its possible shortcomings. Disclaimer, of course, this isn't just from my experience, and by no means am I constructing some kind of listicle telling others definitive reasons why something is better than something else or whatever. But I've never seen anyone talk about the benefits of platform agnosticism, and since I've just recently updated my setup, now with a current generation console and PC hardware this year, the way I think about the utilization of these machines has sort of changed the way I think about gaming and actively influences the choices that I will make moving forward. So, without further ado, let's get started. Gaming hardware is something I've had an interest in for a long time. It first started with an interest in classic and retro consoles. And of course, as I've gotten older and seen the consoles of my youth transform into the retro consoles of today, it became clear after moving to Japan that if I wanted to stay on top of whatever was happening in gaming, I needed to upgrade my hardware. Although that didn't stop me from still going out and buying a PS3 to go along with my Xbox 360 and a Wii even later on, my first big purchase was an upgrade in PC hardware. The MSI GF65 laptop with the RTX 2060 GPU was how I finally entered the weird in-between of the 8th and 9th generation relative to the consoles, at least. With not quite the raw compute to meet what the PS5 and Xbox Series X were capable of, but still meeting the basic ray tracing requirements to be considered relevant and modern. I guess a la Xbox Series S maybe, although it might still be less powerful than that. I was able to skirt by the skin of my teeth into the world of current AAA gaming experiences, if a bit cut down. The GF65 MSI laptop actually lasted quite a while considering the amount of load I put it under and the frequency it was under load for. It was my main computer, and not just for gaming, so the fact it served that purpose for 5 years is actually quite impressive. During this time, it was really my only means of being able to play current games. It ran them perfectly acceptably in terms of graphical fidelity and performance. I was able to leverage NVIDIA's DLSS for games that supported it, like Doom Eternal for example, and it worked quite well. For most of the time, I was using that computer as my main machine for everything. There was pretty much zero anxiety over whether or not it would be able to run whatever game I threw at it. But after being used the way it was for so long, its performance began to deteriorate noticeably, especially concerning hitching frame rates that seemed to get progressively worse over time. It was around that time when I started deciding to offload a lot of my gaming load to consoles. I got an Xbox One, and then I got a PlayStation 5 to help with that. My experience with the Xbox One has been excellent. Of course, I don't have many games for it. I mostly have it for Xbox 360 backwards compatibility and for use of its HDMI pass-through from my other consoles, which works incredibly well, and it's also a fantastic device to watch YouTube on. The PS5 is kind of an ultimate gaming machine as far as PlayStations go. I mean, once I'm able to get my launch PS3 working properly, I think I might have the ultimate PlayStation gaming setup thanks to their combination of current and bespoke hardware and their backwards compatibility. PS4 games run on the PS5 like a dream, and Doom the Dark Ages runs very well on PS5, looks great, and seems like a game whose gameplay is well adapted to the controller input. I actually had a smoother time with the analog control in Doom the Dark Ages than I did in Halo 5 Guardians. Somehow. I really like the PS5, and the fact I got it for a pretty nice discount makes it one of my most valued pieces of gaming hardware. I should note that I do have a Switch. I actually have a regular Switch with a dock, and I have a Switch Lite. These two are incredibly nice to have. I do have a Nintendo Switch Online account, and I do enjoy playing through the retro games they have on there, especially the Game Boy and Super Famicom games. Having a Switch has allowed me to access the Nintendo exclusive games that I want to play, and it also gives me the option to decide between where to play certain multi-platform games. Before getting the Xbox One, I mainly had PC and Switch as my most current pieces of gaming hardware, so whenever a game would come to both platforms, I was able to weigh which one I wanted to get based on a number of different parameters, including price, performance, language support, etc. Getting a PS5 and a new current PC has opened up those options even more. When I got the PS5, I figured that I would be perfectly alright with the idea of living with that for the time until I got a PC. But now that I do have a PC, I have options. It's funny whenever I hear those old videos talking about how PC has a greater number of options than consoles do. Of course, I know what they mean about that, and I don't disagree with them at all. But when you have both a capable PC and a current console, your options open up even more. When I consider games between platforms, my thinking has shifted. Instead of just defaulting to PC, I now have the luxury to consider a number of different factors. One of the games I'm looking forward to is the new Sonic racing game, for example. Okay, sure, it's not a very demanding game, and my PC will easily be able to play it better in every way than the PS5. But why I still am considering it for PS5 anyway comes down to a couple of reasons. Since it's going to probably be a lightweight game, I'm pretty confident that it will likely have few, if any, problems running on current console hardware. It's also coming out for PS4, but I'm not sure if the game is scaling up from PS4 hardware or scaling down to PS4, but it's probably the latter. Either way, I don't have any anxieties about performance on console, and since I play these kinds of racing games with a controller anyway, I already have a strong argument in favor of getting it on console. I also consider the kind of performance benefits from the PC version that I could likely live without. Of course, I don't know anything about it, but if the performance or benefits offered on PC compared to console aren't compelling to me, I'd rather reserve the SSD space on my PC for a game that would benefit from the more powerful hardware I have. The only thing that would put me off from getting this game for PS5 would be if there are serious performance issues. So I will probably wait for the Digital Foundry analysis of the game before making my final decision. One thing I also strongly consider when it comes to what platform I buy games for is also the achievements. This is very much a me thing, but I really like achievements. If it's possible to get 100% of the achievements in a game, I find myself compelled by the intrinsic rewarding feeling from getting those achievements to go for them. I've gone for 100% on Steam games and platinum trophies on PlayStation. I guess I've become a bit of a junkie for those things. Gamer scores, trophies, percent completion of games, all those things are part of the gaming experience for me. But if I'm going to play a franchise of games, I don't want those achievements to be scattered messily across multiple platforms. No, I can't have that. It must be organized. So, Ryuga Gotoku, or Like a Dragon, or Yakuza, or whatever you want to call it, I will only play on PlayStation for that reason. Doom? I plan to buy Doom the Dark Ages again for PC so that I can have all of my Doom achievements neatly on PC since I have all the other games there. I would say something for Xbox, but Xbox is kind of a mess. The ecosystem is fine, I like that, but it doesn't matter anymore where you play Xbox games for Xbox achievements, so I understand it is one heck of a luxury to be able to be so picky about where I choose to play my games, and I consider myself fortunate that I can. But honestly, in this world where console exclusives are increasingly a thing of the past, it's nice for those who do have multiple gaming rigs which can run modern games to be able to have that choice. When the new Silent Hill comes out, I'll probably get that for PC, and while Stellar Blade is probably better on PC, I presume, anyway, I'll probably opt for the PS5 version for the trophies, and because I'll play it on a controller anyway. Gran Turismo 7 is a game I am definitely interested in that is a PS5 exclusive. I can finally run Forza Motorsport, the new one, and I would love to give that game a try despite what people might be saying about it. Console and PC both have their individual benefits, but when they are combined in your setup, your options are truly open. You are free to pick where you get to play your games. I have no sense of loyalty to one company or another. I just like to play games, and so having this kind of freedom is perfect, at least for someone like me. The ability to say things like, I want this game's achievements for there, or I'll wait for the DF analysis to make my final purchasing decision, is such a great feeling. This kind of thinking and decision making is part of the hobby for me. So just thinking about it is part of the fun of gaming. I love video games as a form of art and entertainment, which I think shows through the fact that when I was offline all this time, I was clocking in serious time on my PS3 and Xbox 360, grinding Sonic Generations achievements, GTA 4, Automedius Excellent achievements, and Gran Turismo 5, with spurts of time spent playing Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong Country 2 for Nintendo Switch Online, and even clocking in time in The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on my DS. Platform agnosticism comes with a lot of benefits when it comes to purchasing options as well. You have a choice of platform based on price, and whether you want a physical or digital version of a game. When I bought Doom the Dark Ages, I got it for cheaper than what it was going for digitally by buying the physical edition on Amazon. Why was it so much cheaper? I have no idea. You also get the option to buy games used if you don't mind physical editions of games. One of my favorite things to do is to weigh the price of a game when it goes on sale on Steam versus the pre-owned price it typically goes for at secondhand stores. Sometimes that can influence my decisions greatly. See my video about Balan Wonderworld as a prime example of that. As someone who is economically conscious, I'm always considering the best value, which is why I sometimes don't immediately buy something I want when I find it, because I want to shop around and see the typical going rate to make sure I'm getting the best deal. Again, that's part of the gaming hobby for me. You also gain from the individual benefits of each system. Thanks to the fact that I have a desktop PC, once the hardware begins to age and it comes time to update its individual components, thanks to the modular design of PC hardware, it's relatively easy to do so and to upgrade the individual components piecemeal over time. When it comes to consoles, the lifespan of consoles since the 7th generation has extended dramatically, and I doubt that the PS5 will lose support anytime soon, even after the PS6 has been released. And even then, if I ever feel the need to upgrade my console hardware, the cost of entry into buying a new console is still pretty cheap relative to buying a whole new computer, even when considering the possible performance discrepancies. Console support and PC hardware support assure such a long life for them that the only way they can really be aged out is with the emergence and normalization of new technologies that are simply impossible on the older hardware, like multi-frame generation, ray tracing, path tracing, etc. The only options I don't really have open to me in my current state are the ones that are exclusive to the Switch 2. The Switch 2 is incredibly difficult to get in Japan, and that's by design, unfortunately. One day I'll probably get one, but I'm so behind on the Switch anyway, I don't quite mind missing out on these initial launch titles if it means I get to spend time on the games I missed when the Switch was still Nintendo's flagship console. I especially would love to play like Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't mind the lesser performance of the original Switch versions of these games. I finished Breath of the Wild on the Wii U after all, so I can live with the performance there. The Xenoblade games are also very interesting to me, and the Switch is perfect for that. Loyalty and devotion to a single piece of hardware, as you can tell, doesn't make much sense to me unless it's PC, I suppose. PC still does offer a lot of great experiences, not only on a per game basis, but from a lifetime perspective living with it, especially if you have a machine that can be upgraded. You do get games later than consoles at times, and sometimes the console versions of games do have better performance at launch than the PC port, but at the same time, the PC versions of games have more settings options, and games can be modified in ways that aren't exactly possible on consoles, especially when it comes to optimization fixes generated by users. See every Elder Scrolls game ever made. And also, especially for legacy titles. And for that, I think chiefly about Wolfenstein 3D and Star Wars Dark Forces especially. The mouse look, frame rate, and resolution fixes on there are, like, the game is literally unplayable without them. I know I've gone on at length about this topic, but it's something I've always believed in, even subconsciously. Going back to when I was a kid, the decisions I made about what hardware and games I got always came from the needs I had at the time. I decided, like with my brother, to go with the GameCube as a kid because all the Sonic games were going there and I really liked Mario. We went with the Wii thanks to its GameCube backwards compatibility, which ensured a rich library of games. Multi-platform games were almost guaranteed thanks to the console's popularity, as well as more Sonic and Mario games. I got a laptop PC that was able to run GTA 4 and Empire Total War and log countless hours on them over the years. I got an Xbox 360 to catch up with what 7th generation games I missed, and because of its superior performance over the PS3 in general with multi-platform games, and so on and so forth. I know there are a number of downsides people can't help but to see with gaming nowadays. But for me, while I do see some troubling trends, especially with regards to digital distribution and the rising popularity of subscription services, basically consumers telling companies that they are seemingly okay with having their access to games taken away at a moment's notice, I still feel like it is an exciting time to be a gamer, especially when you are afforded the luxury to keep your options open. Of course, emotional attachments to certain hardware like Nintendo, Xbox, or PlayStation can be hard for those to shirk, but in these modern times, the justification for that kind of loyalty becomes weaker and weaker. Maybe it's a bad time for the faithful, but it's never been a better time for an agnostic like myself. Let's enjoy games while we can, I say. Old, new, modern, legacy, cutting edge, retro, life's too short not to enjoy games. And honestly, to me, that's the most important thing.